Hello and welcome to our reading for the collective for this full moon in Libra coming up on Sunday. Damn it, I should have checked. Sunday, the whatever the number is date. Anyway, it's the full moon in Libra, and look it up. So I want to get into this reading a little bit differently than we usually do because in this threefold return position, right? There's this one position in this spread, how I read it, that functions in two ways. How we meet the situation, how it comes back to meet us. And the card in that position for this full moon in Libra is the card associated with Libra, Justice. Okay? So what that is telling us right off the bat is the more that we approach this full moon and kind of everything around it and everything that we're doing both individually and collective with this full moon energy, the more that we approach it with an eye for really trying to balance our hearts toward lightness, toward joy, toward beauty, right? Libra's a sign of beauty. And it's your definition of beauty. It's not some external societal definition of beauty. Like, what kind of beauty do you want to bring in your life? What will make your heart feel light? The more that we meet this with that energy, the more the universe is going to come back and really help us fine tune that balance on the other side of it. Okay, now, how have we gotten here? Well, through Ace of Swords, what we've come through, there's been a big sort of jolt, an awakening of truth. Ace of Swords is that divine gift of air. It's intellect, it's communication, it's understanding, right? Some sort of, like, Ace of Swords is kind of the ultimate light bulb moment, right? Where something just like fills us up. We can't ignore it anymore. Now we're moving forward in a different way. And it has pushed us forward into the Hierophant with 5 of Coins. Woo! Which to me is a very, very, very juicy little combination of cards, because the Hierophant is the great spiritual teacher of the tarot, right? That Hierophant energy is all about spiritual tradition, like working within this lineage, right? Recognizing our inherent placement in a lineage, whatever lineage or lineages that may be, right? And acknowledging our responsibility to also carry it forward, to be the student and then also the teacher. It's very spiritual, very spirit, right? Element of spirit, very untethered from the earthly world in a lot of ways. And then we've got it held with that 5 of Coins, which is keeps pulling us back down to the ground in this way of like, well, yeah, but I can't really engage with my spirituality that much. I can't take on this new spiritual learning, this new spiritual teaching, because 5 of Coins, what will happen to my world? I can't afford it. I can't afford it physically. I can't afford it financially. What will happen to my house? What will happen to my body, right? All of these things, those two ideas are really, really pushing up against each other. Okay, so that's one form of this balance. How do we balance our spiritual and our practical needs in a way that elevates both and that gets us out of that fear of lack of the 5 of Coins, okay? And then moving forward from there, 10 of Coins, well, there's part of the answer immediately. 10 of Coins, leaning into a big abundant community, trusting in your big abundant community, trusting yourself to contribute to it, right? A lot of times that's the thing that's the hardest with 10 of Coins sometimes. The hardest part isn't actually accepting the sort of abundance and assistance from the group. It's really acknowledging and celebrating how important and how valuable our own contribution is, right? that can be the hardest part, because if we don't acknowledge that contribution, then like we can get really down on ourselves. We feel like a charity case. Oh, people are helping me all the time. What am I doing? No, we're the 10. We're helping too. Okay, so it's really, again, it's the 10 of coins in this spread has a very similar sort of essence to the Hierophant, in that sense of recognizing both the receiving and the giving part of the equation, and how important both of those are within us, how valuable. Okay, then through that reliance on the group, through that involvement with the group, we move back into that Justice card, into that really nice balance, right? And in my Elemental Power Tarot, that image is the weighing of the heart against feather from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So the Justice is not just about a pure balance, it's really about balancing toward a lightness, okay? We're spiritual beings having this earthly experience. Everything about this earthly experience is heavy, like our world, gravity, our bodies. It's a very dense experience. So it's really a big part of our jobs to lighten that up, to lighten our heart and lighten our experience, so that we can not be so weighed down, but be sort of, floating along, maybe a little a little less gravity, a little like moon level gravity, so we can just be a little bit more bouncy, right? Okay. Below, we have so much cheerleading going on. We have 2 7s in the foundational level. We have the 7 of Cups in line with the 7 of Wands. So those two together, as we work through this spiritual earthly balance that has been spurred on by this truth, this light bulb moment, now we move into really being challenged to push ourselves. 7s are overcoming doubt. How do we overcome doubt? We got to push ourselves, right? You prove to yourself that you are capable of more, that you are worthy of more. With the 7 of Cups, really allowing yourself to tap into and to accept and celebrate what it is that you truly desire. Okay, cups are water, emotion. So really opening that up and getting to the kernel of it. Sometimes we want to check a box that we think is a desire, but it's just a symbol. Okay, so we're getting down to the root of what it is we truly desire. At the same time, really pushing ourselves to see how really beautifully tapped in to our intuition, to our instinct, to our creative selves we are with that 7 of Wands. Now, water and fire are kind of the most mysterious elements, right? Is how I think of it. Like they're both very powerful, very influential, I guess I should say. They have huge influence on our lives that cannot always be explained, that quite often cannot be explained. With water, emotion, we have emotions come through us. We get in moods. We don't know why, but it really affects everything else in our life. Same thing with fire. Instinct, intuition, you just have a hunch, you just know something, and it really colors every other aspect of your life, okay? So with both of those, we're pushing through to really trust ourselves more in both of those arenas, and through that self-trust to trust the world around us and trust the universe a little bit more, okay? Now up above, we have the 9 of Swords and the 6 of Wands, okay? So if you had 7 of Wands down here, 6 of Wands up here, 6 is our achievement. So we're going to be really looking at getting rid of some fear of success, okay? Fear of lack in the 5 of Coins. With the 6 of Wands, with the rest of this mix, right? Like it could read a little bit differently in another spread. That 6 of Wands is really looking to me like in that position, to its hopes and fears position, like an invitation to not be afraid to achieve, not being afraid to achieve in the realm of fire, in intuition, in action. right? Really acknowledging when those little spidey senses are spot on and going with it. And through that, we are able to really grow and enhance this heightened wisdom that we already have in the realm of air. So what that's going to look like is a lot of sort of opening up of how we communicate internally and externally, how we communicate about these ideas, about this balance, this, mundane versus spiritual life. A lot of that stuff is just it's getting really refined. And the nines are about recognizing what we don't know so we can recognize what we do know, and we can start to build, right? If we just think we know everything, it's not super helpful. So with the nines, we get to see what we don't know in a very healthy way that inspires and encourages us to start to expand upward. Now, our key card is another swords card, the Page of Swords. Page of Swords is Earth of Air. So as we go through all of this, that key card is the key to unlocking all of these energies. And it is inviting us to continually throw out the old way. Throw out the old way of thinking. Throw out the old way of speaking. Throw out the old way of communicating. Again, communicating internally and externally. Really letting that be a living process. And I think a lot with the pages about this idea of transmuting, right? Because if you're starting over and you're really settled in to some patterns, which a lot of us are, right? It's how we get through life. Really giving it back to the earth, giving the old patterns back to the earth in order for them to be sort of like soaked into the soil. And transmutation is about something not just going away, but something becoming something else that is more beneficial, let's say, than it was before. Okay, so that's really lovely. It makes a lot of sense as we go through this process of balancing